get our webinar started here. I think with today's cold and wintry weather in and around Oregon and Southwest Washington, perhaps folks are taking just a few extra minutes to get situated on their computers, but we want to go ahead and get started on time. So good afternoon and welcome to Hints for Healthy Holiday Eating. Today's webinar is presented as part of our Healthy You program to inspire and support you in living your healthy best. So thanks again for joining us, everybody. Really, really appreciate it. My name is Chris Caldwell, and today I'll be helping our speaker, Jindy Newman, share tips to help you choose festive foods that taste good and are good for you this holiday. So here's a few ground rules and things to expect during the webinar. A recording of this program will be available in a couple of days on peacehealth.org/healthyholiday. Today's session will be interactive, and through polls, chat, and a Q&A, we welcome your participation. Sound will be muted during the session for everyone but the speakers to enhance the quality of the listening experience. If you have technical difficulties, click the Help button. At any time, if you have questions or comments, type them into the box below the chat window on your screen. If you're on a smartphone, click the question mark to get to the chat screen. We will do our best to answer questions during the session or during the Q&A near the end of this presentation. Please limit the scope of your questions to our topic. And while today's session is presented by a registered dietitian, as always, it's best to see your own healthcare provider for your specific concerns. And this is exciting. As a thank you for being with us today, we'll randomly draw the name of one lucky participant who is signed on to today's show to receive a Fitbit, just in time for the holidays. So we'll announce the winner after the Q&A. So let's go ahead and get started. As I mentioned before, our speaker is Jindy Newman. Jindy is a registered dietitian and certified diabetes educator at Peace Health Southwest Specialty Clinic. She has been providing nutrition counseling and diabetes education for adults and kids at Southwest for more than 20 years. She grew up in Ohio and Alaska and is an Oregon State University alum. Go Beavs. Jindy lives in Vancouver, Washington with her husband and teenage son, and she enjoys cooking, gardening, kayaking, and partnering with individuals and groups to promote healthy lifestyle choices. I think you'll enjoy her fun and flavorful insights on healthy holiday eating. And to no further ado, I'd like to go ahead and introduce Jindy.
Thank you, Chris. I'm glad to be speaking with you all today. I've got a warm wool sweater I pulled out of the closet today and a cup of hot tea, and I'm looking forward to sharing some information with you. So an overview of our session today, we're going to be talking about 10 tips for fun and delicious party planning, whether you're a host or a guest. And I'll also be sharing recipes with you for an easy but elegant menu of flavorful dishes and drinks that won't keep you slaving in the kitchen all day. And you can either use the menu as it is or use items off of the menu as you desire. We will also talk about some healthy gift-giving ideas and some helpful resources like books and websites that you may want to look into. But to start out, I'd like to know what foods are hardest for you to moderate over the holiday. So Chris, let's launch the first poll. So what holiday goodies tempt you the most? So is it sweets like cookies, candy, pies, pastries, or savory items like the turkey, the ham, the seafood or crab, salty snacks like nuts or chips or Chex Mixes, or the holiday spirits like rum, hot toddies, mulled wine, cocktails, or other that you can type into the chat window. So while we're waiting for the results of that poll, I like to mention that whether you're trying to prevent weight gain, lose weight, control your blood sugars, or stick to a healthy eating plan, or just feel better over the holidays, I hope that the tips we discussed today will give you some support. Since we're going to talk about 10 different tips, I encourage you as we go through to at least select one tip that you will focus on, because it's hard to make a lot of changes at once. So at least be thinking about one top tip that is something that you'll take a look at. So we'll let Chris know when he's ready to close the poll.
So we're at about 80+% of votes in. We'll give everyone just a couple more minutes or seconds to see what's tempting everybody out there.
It's challenging this time of year with, extra treats showing up in the break room and lots of extra events that we go to. Even social events at, clubs and churches often become pretty food focused this time of year.
Indeed. And I think now is a good time to go ahead and close the poll. So thank you, everybody, for your participation. And it looks like sweets, certainly my favorite, the cookies, candies, and pies, are what's going ahead and luring, attracting people's attention out there, Jindy.
Okay, so sweets are the top one, and the next runner-up is the savory, or the salty, excuse me. Okay, thank you, everyone, for giving me an idea of what your bigger challenges are. So let's move to our first tip. So for tip number one, the main priority is to plan ahead. That'll make the rest of your holidays go better if you set realistic goals. So, and by a realistic goal, I mean if you're trying to lose weight, maybe during this time we at least just try to maintain or not gain weight. Or if we're trying to control blood sugars, we at least, we might not try to, reduce our A1C by 2 points, but we might try to keep closer to the targets our healthcare providers have for us. So don't expect perfection, but do expect or visualize yourself making healthy choices. Because if we see the change we want, it will make it easier for you to look at solutions to help you navigate that. So part of that's going to be deciding what's important. So you may want to decide, like if you're going to have a party, how complex of a menu do you want to have? So now would be the time to be thinking about, do I want to have a simple menu so I'm not too tired and then I'm not facing, my guests aren't facing a lot of choices. You might hold a family or coworker meeting to decide how often and what kind of treats you're going to have around. Maybe you're not going to make the 3 or 4 different holiday cookies. Maybe you're just going to choose 1 or 2, and maybe you do those at separate times, one for Christmas, one for New Year's. And maybe you look at having a healthy buddy. So whether it's a friend, family member, or coworker that's also trying to make healthier choices and encourage each other and hold each other accountable. So think about developing your own positive action plan as we go through the rest of our tips. So we're going to move on to tip number 2, staying active. So before we talk about food, it's important to talk about the other part of the energy balance equation with physical activity. So if we find ourselves sitting a lot more, socializing over the holidays versus moving, it will make it even harder to achieve your weight management goals. So try to look at your schedule and have a plan to keep to your regular exercise if you have an exercise plan. If you don't have an exercise plan yet, think about how can you build activity into your holiday events and shopping. Take activity breaks if you can on a holiday day where in between the meal and the dessert rather than flowing from one to the other. Our family typically takes a couple-hour break in between, and we might go for a walk, we might play an active physical game outdoors, or if the weather's not conducive to that, maybe put on certain era dance music and roll back the rug and have some fun that way. So be thinking about how you can be more active. Even offering to help with some of the meal cleanup after a meal gets you up and moving around. So I think we're ready for another quiz. So this time we want to take a look at what you think for an appetizer would be the lowest in fat. Would it be 1 ounce of brie cheese, 2 little smoky sausages, 1 ounce of mixed nuts, which would be 1/4 cup, or a tablespoon of hummus dip? So go ahead and put your vote for which one you think is the lowest in fat. And the reason we want to take a look at fat is the most concentrated source of calories, so extra helpings are going to really add up fast. While plant fats are more heart healthy, the calories can add up, even from good fats. So Chris will let us know when we're getting ready to see the results of this quiz.
That's
so
right. We'll wait just a few more seconds.
Okay.
So we've got about 80% of the votes counted.
Wonderful. So you want to think about saving your fats for the items that you really want. So maybe you skip the ranch dip in order to have a small piece of pecan pie.
So Jindy, we'll go ahead and close this poll.
Okay.
And take a look at our results, and it appears hummus, the Mediterranean favorite, tops the list.
And that is a correct answer. Hummus is the lowest in fat. So we'll have a slide here in just a moment showing the different fat content of all 4 choices, but the tablespoon of hummus was the lowest, and then the little smokies, and then the brie cheese, and the highest of all was actually a plant fat. So that 1/4 cup of nuts was actually 15 grams of fat. So even though nuts are a whole food plant-based item, the calories can add up real quickly. So think about tablespoons versus small handfuls or 1/4 cup when you have those kind of items. So let's take a look at our third tip. Our third tip is setting yourself up well by eating regular meals. It's easy when we get busy with the holidays to sometimes forget to eat a meal, or we might think that we want to save those calories to have them later on. But it doesn't always work out real well. We can get a little bit of a low blood sugar, get cranky by skipping meals, or we also just set ourselves up to be ravenous when we get to the event or the party, and then we make less healthy choices. So even if it just means having a lighter lunch, at least have something to eat. And also be thinking ahead about planning easy-to-fix meals during this busy time of year so that you don't end up getting a lot of takeout or fast food. Even a super easy corn tortilla with pre-grated cheese and some black beans to make a quick quesadilla, and then having that with a handful of veggie sticks could be a really quick meal at home. Also, taking healthy snacks with you when you're out and about if you're doing extra shopping can make it easier to avoid getting treats at the mall that are going to sabotage your choices for later. Another thought is to know what you're going to have for dinner. So think the night before, or at least the morning of, what you're going to have for dinner so that you're not choosing at the last minute. Our next tip, number 4, is avoid temptations, because we know there's going to be many minefields of temptations out there. But one of the things you can choose to do is not stand in the minefield. So you might decide what number of events you're going to host or attend. If you have a lot and all of them are food-focused, and that's going to be difficult for you, you might decide which ones are the better ones to go to. Maybe going to ones that are just appetizers versus full meal kinds of things. You might want to evaluate that. Also, where you stand when you get to an event can make a difference. If you're standing right near the tempting foods at the buffet table, or a dish of candy in the office, it's really hard to avoid if you're in the direct vicinity and you can just reach out and get it. So go get your items and then move across the room and find people you want to visit with. When it comes to the break room at work, you might put things on the back table as far away from where people walk into the break room, or keep the holiday treats covered. Leave them in that Tupperware container with the dark lid on it. Leave them in the pink pastry box so that if people really want them, they can go over and open the lid. But if it's open, we're more likely to be drawn in. So let's take a look at tip number 5, bringing your own healthy food to an event. So if you've been invited to an event, you can certainly ask the host or hostess if you can bring a healthy choice like a fresh salad, a vegetable dish, or a beautiful seasonal fruit, maybe even a seasonal tea or with fruit, or a flavored water. I'm going to have some recipes for you later in the program. Some other ideas that could be good would be a lean protein item like cold shrimp with cocktail sauce, or the chilled Chinese barbecue pork that you dip in the hot mustard. Those would be a lower calorie protein item. If you're hosting, you can certainly ask your guests if they traditionally bring items, what kinds of healthy items you would like them to bring. Or if you really don't want your host or your guests to bring things, but you know they will, you could ask them to bring items for the local food bank. Or one friend that I go to a party for, she has a caroling party every year, and part of it is we go out and walk and go caroling in her neighborhood, but we usually bring either socks or hats, gloves, and mittens for one of the local shelters. So she has us bring things, but less food items. So next, let's talk about beverages, and we'll start with another quiz about which drink has the fewest calories. So we're going to pick from 4 different choices: a 4-ounce Cosmopolitan cocktail, a 10-ounce Bloody Mary, a 6.5-ounce rum and Coke, or a 5-ounce spiked eggnog. So which one has the fewest calories? So alcoholic beverages can be a real challenge because we often don't think of beverages as filling us up. So often the calories from beverages don't mentally register, but in our bodies they do. So we'll have Chris let us know when he thinks we're getting close to the...
We are closing in on it, Jindy.
Okay.
I think folks really know their holiday libations.
And that can be a fun part of the holidays as long as we manage it well.
Absolutely. So we're about 90%, so I'll go ahead and close our poll.
Okay.
And here's the results. Bloody Mary appears to have...
Okay, so most people selected the Bloody Mary, and then the next choice was the Cosmopolitan or the rum and Coke. So most everybody knows the eggnog is a pretty heavy choice. And the advantage of the Bloody Mary is that it also is the one item that would have the most nutrients because it has vegetables as well. The only downside of the Bloody Mary is it's also higher in salt if you have hypertension or congestive heart failure and are trying to watch your sodium intake. So some more about alcohol. So have a game plan for alcohol as well if you do drink. Plan on, at an event, starting with a glass of water first to stay well hydrated. And think about keeping your glass full with a healthy beverage and limiting yourself, if you're a woman, to 1 alcoholic beverage, and if you're a man, 2, because that's the recommendations per day. And unfortunately, women have smaller livers, so our recommendations are lower. If you're hosting a party, be sure and offer a variety of non-alcoholic options and make those not only the easy choice, but the enticing choice. And we'll have some recipes when we get to the recipe section. And there's a reason that you really want to offer some other choices, is because if you drink too much alcohol, not only do you get more calories from the drink, but it's twofold, is you're less aware of how much you're actually eating, and you may consume more solid calories as well. And again, for the hostess, you might want to consider having a gift for designated drivers and maybe a special glass charm or cocktail pick for the designated drivers so that it helps remind other people not to fill their glass with alcoholic beverage. Another option, we have a teenage son, so we're trying to be role models and make sure that we know our limits. And you can buy personal portable breathalyzers, and some of them have interchangeable mouthpieces, so multiple people can use the device. And we'll have on the resource list the information for Backtrack. Last year they had them at the keychain ones at Costco, and you can get them online for like $30 to $50. And they're actually, seem pretty reasonable as far as, the information on what they say the alcohol percent in staying under the legal limit of 0.08 and how you feel with the descriptions they list. So next, let's take a look at sweets, because we had a lot of people say that that was the most challenging for them. So we're going to do another quiz, and what we're looking to see is which sweet you think has the most calories. A frosted snowman cookie, the ones from Starbucks currently, or a 12-ounce peppermint mocha from Starbucks, so not a 16-ounce, but just a 12-ounce, a 2-inch lemon square, or a regular size candy cane. It can be really easy this time of year when you're out shopping to stop at Starbucks and get a treat and a drink, and it's amazing how many calories can add up from things like that. But also the other little treats around the office can really add up. So Chris will let us know when we're getting close to the end of the poll.
And we are close to the end. We are approaching 90% of the votes in. So we'll give everyone just a couple more seconds if they'd like to weigh in on the sweets. Okay, I think that should do it. So we'll go ahead and close the poll.
Okay.
And it looks like everyone in this wintry weather is mocha-minded today, Jindy.
It does sound like we're going for hot things. And so what the poll was, most people thought it was the peppermint mocha, and then the next was the snowman cookie. But when we actually reveal the results, the frosted sugar cookie is a little bit higher. It was 390 calories, whereas the peppermint mocha was 350. So they're fairly close, but you can imagine if you stop and have that for a snack while you're shopping, you're getting more than a half a day's worth of calories just in that snack. So it makes a 2-inch really good lemon square not look so bad, and a regular size candy cane is a really good treat. Another thing that can be a good thing to offer are the little mini candy canes, because those are even closer to about 15 calories. And I think those seem to be catching on, because this last weekend I had to go to 3 different stores to find a store that was not out of the mini candy canes. So our next tip is tip number 7, enjoying holiday favorites moderately and mindfully. So we're not after having a depriving, boring holiday without any family favorites. So food can still be part of the celebration, but it shouldn't be in excess, and we still should be mindful. So I encourage you to scan the choices at an event, because often there's more than we need, and there may be some fairly common items that maybe you don't really want. You may want to be selective and choose the things that you can't get every day. If you're a host, you may want to, rather than offering a full smorgasbord, offering a more select number of items and having a lot more on the vegetable side. It's amazing how side dishes can really sabotage, especially when they have a lot of calories. Even some of the appetizers can be very high options. The other thing is the size of the plates and glasses you use. If you can, offer a smaller plate People can always come back for seconds, but it can make it easier to select smaller servings. Or if you're at an event where they have 2 different size plates, choose the smaller one. And for glasses, we tend to drink more if we have a bigger glass. So if they have any smaller glasses available, and it's a calorie-containing beverage, choose the smaller glass. This is an example where maybe the choice of those big 16-ounce solo cups is probably not the best choice. If you're serving caloric beverages, you might want to choose a smaller disposable cup if you're using disposables. So next, we're going to take a look at tip number 8, planning pleasures other than food and drink. So what are ways that we can make food not the main focus? Because what we really want to do is interact with our friends and family. And how can we get those exchanges of conversation going? Some people enjoy doing a white elephant gift exchange or a ornament gift exchange. You can also listen to music or put music on to dance to. Now with the availability of Bluetooth speakers, you could get or borrow one of those, and you or your guests could take turns playing some favorite holiday or music from certain eras that can get people moving. There's also other things to look at or play with that you can scatter around. You could ask people to bring old Christmas photos. If you do something like that, you may want to have some plastic sleeves available or a poster board with some removable tape, or having some mind games or manipulative puzzles, things for people to do. During the question and answers or in your chat box, I'd love to know what some of your favorite engaging guest ideas are to get them engaging with each other and not be so food focused, because I learn new ideas from program participants every year. So our next tip, number 9, is don't overeat to please others. So the holidays are a time where hosts really want to share their favorite dishes and show their love with food, but sometimes they don't realize they've become food pushers. So it's helpful to learn to say a polite but assertive no thank you when they ask if you would like more. You can certainly say, that was really good, but I couldn't have another bite. So you might want to practice what you could say. Or if they say, oh, you've only eaten half of your food, and it's someone it's really hard to say no to, you can always say, could I have a piece of foil or something and I could wrap this up? And then you can decide later if you want to eat that at home for leftovers or not. If you really find it hard to avoid the food pushers, maybe that's a situation where you choose not to attend, or maybe limit your time there. Maybe just go for appetizers if that's would make it easier for you. And then we get to our last tip, and I specifically saved the vegetables for last, or the fruits and veggies, because I wanted it to be a focus that you would remember. So think about half of your plate being filled with vegetables and fruit. So if you select a rainbow of colors, both in what you serve and what you select, it's very eye-catching. You can go on various different websites and look up Christmas-related vegetable platters and get some great ideas for how to make things look nice. Some colors and flavors that I like are using jicama, and that's what the brown root in the lower corner of the slide is. It's about probably close to 2 large potato-sized roots, and you cut this thick layer of skin off, and it's nice and white and crunchy on the inside. And you can cut it the thickness of sugar cookies, and even cut it out with cookie cutters. If you find that it's hard to press the cookie cutters on the jicama, if you set a small cutting board on top of the cookie cutter and press on that, that can work real well. And serving jicama with green vegetables and red vegetables makes a really nice Christmassy platter, and we're going to have a recipe for you here in a moment. The other thing to think about is choose the vegetables and fruit items, the produce items first, and fill up on those. And then if you really want to go back for seconds, try to stick with the vegetables, because those are going to be filling, but also and crunchy, but a lot lower in calories. So now I'd like to share with you our recipes with our menu. And you'll see above the chat box some documents, the 10 tips handout, the holiday menu and recipes, and the holiday eating resources. So you may want to click on those and have those open before the program closes so that afterwards you can save or print those out for yourselves. They will be available later on the PeaceHealth website as well, but if you want them now, you may want to get those open so you'll have those for later reference. So our first item from our easy and elegant holiday menu is the cranberry jalapeno dip, which we have a picture of here. So this cranberry dip is floating on a cloud of pre-whipped cream cheese. You can now buy Philadelphia cream cheese in the 12-ounce tubs, and so it's very easy to spread that out on a nice platter. And I actually purchased a chill platter that actually helps keep the cream cheese cold. So you can look for special platters if you like to have special things to help keep things cold. But this is a sweet but a little bit spicy dip served with the cream cheese and then the jicama and the cucumbers, but you can vary the vegetables based on what you have available. Celery works real well. And this is an item that can be made ahead, at least the cranberry portion. You can certainly make it the day before. It's best if it's refrigerated at least an hour before, and then you can plate it up shortly before serving. But this is going to be a much lower calorie than traditional chip and dip type appetizers or cheese spreads. Our next item is our seasonal drinks. So we have two drinks. One is a seasonal crock of hot teas. So depending on what taste or smell you want, you can use your crock pot and use the Celestial Seasonings brand is one of the brands that I like. They have their apple cinnamon spice tea, and you can put 6 or 8 bags, depending on how strong you like it, in the crock pot and let that get good and hot. And then shortly before serving, you can float horizontally sliced apples and some fresh cranberries on top. And another alternative flavor is the Celestial Seasonings also makes a candy cane lane, kind of a peppermint tea, and it's nice to float orange slices on that one. And an option is to have little mini candy canes on the side to garnish the mug. It's still going to be much lower than something like a spiced cider or a hot chocolate. And these are decaffeinated beverages, which gives your guests the choice to stay lower on caffeine. Our next beverage that we have is a seasonal shrub, which is a flavored vinegar spritzer. So a newer item in the beverage scene are the vinegar drinks that are flavored with various different fruits. And you can buy them pre-made, or I've included recipes on web links for recipes that you can make your own. My favorite seasonal one right now is using a pomegranate vinegar concentrate from one of the Portland restaurants called Pok Pok. And you can get this at New Seasons or order it online from Pok Pok. And you mix it with the natural flavored seltzer. LaCroix makes a cran raspberry that mixes really nicely with the cranberry concentrate. You just put an ounce of the concentrate in the glass and then about 8 ounces of the fizzy water, some ice cubes, and it's really nice if you put a sprig of fresh rosemary. Not only is it just a visual garnish, but if you strip the bottom leaves, it releases the aromatics and makes a wonderful flavor in the drink as well. And you can, as an option, you can float some pomegranate seeds on top. And if you're doing some of the other recipes in the packet, you'll already have some pomegranate because we're going to use it in our salad. If you open the commercial drinking vinegars, you do want to refrigerate them after opening. And the calories will vary based on the drinking vinegar, but most of them run from about 40 to 80 calories per ounce, depending on the flavor. And there are some recipes for making your own that either have the active vinegar that has the probiotics in it, or there's a cooked version if you're in a hurry where you can get the flavor but it doesn't have some of the probiotic benefits. And
Judy,
then our
while we're
next,
on the top,
yes.
Excuse me for interrupting, but while we're on the
Fine.
topic of beverages and calories, we did have a question come in that kind of circles back to one of our earlier polls. And Sue is asking, is the peppermint hot cocoa better for calorie count at McDonald's or Starbucks or Dutch Brothers?
Ooh, now that's one I would have to check. My guess is that it might be at McDonald's, because I'm guessing at most of your coffee shops they're using full-fat milk or some heavy cream. And it also depends on the size and whether they serve it with whipped cream. Sometimes that extra whipped cream that they put on top at the coffee shops really can add up. So I would encourage you to ask or go online, because those are all chain restaurants, and they, if they're a chain of 20 or more, they would have the nutrition information even for their beverages. But very good question.
Excellent. We'll move on to salads.
Okay. So our salad with our menu is a spinach salad with a pomegranate vinaigrette. And this is a recipe we pulled from Diabetes Self-Management. It's a magazine as well as a website that has some great recipes both for seasonal and other items. But I like this Christmas related salad because it had some lovely colors and it also is very flavorful. It has some goat cheese along with the toasted walnuts and then a quick vinaigrette. And if you make your own vinaigrette, it's going to be nice and fresh and be much lower in salt than a pre-made vinaigrette. The interesting thing here is if you're not familiar with how to open up a pomegranate, I'm going to talk you through that real quickly. I would encourage you to wear an apron because it can get a little bit messy, but one way to control some of the mess is to put a deep X in the blossom end of the pomegranate, have a large bowl of water, and then put the pomegranate down in there, and then with your thumbs break it apart, and then pull out the pomegranate seeds gradually in the water, and then the white part will float to the top, and then you can lift out the seeds and rinse those off. But a lot of grocery stores now will sell the pomegranate seeds that are already taken out of the pomegranate for you if you need a quicker option. Our next recipe is our main dish or entree. Halibut is one of my favorites, but I don't get it very often because I don't live in Southeast Alaska anymore. But one of the favorites that I like is a pan-seared halibut. And for this one, you want a large skillet, not one that has ridges in the pan. And then you'll want to heat a high-temperature oil like a avocado oil, canola, or a peanut oil to shimmering the pan but not smoking, and then sear these marinated fillets on each side. And then I'm serving it over a bed of black rice. Another name for black rice is forbidden rice, and it's purple, kind of like black beans. And it also has a nice chewy flavor, so I have information on how to cook that as well. One of the things with this recipe is since you're doing this right before the meal and you may be wearing your holiday attire, be sure and wear an apron, because with that hot oil it will splatter a little bit. And if you have a splatter screen to put over your skillet, that may save your outfit as well. And then the holidays are not complete with a meal without a treat. And I'm a fan of dark chocolate, so we've put together a chocolate walnut tartlet that is a delicious bite-sized no-bake dessert that you can make ahead, and it still looks very impressive on a nice cake plate with some fresh fruit, and it also is a gluten-free item. You can use either bar or chocolate chips for this with a 50-60% cacao content. I find that chips melt a little bit better. And then Nature's Path has a nice crispy rice cereal. And basically you're melting the chocolate and mixing it with the toasted nuts and the cereal. And if you don't want to use walnuts because you've already used those in the salad, you could use any other nut like pecans or almonds would work well. And if you have somebody that has an allergy to nuts, you can find out if they do okay with sunflower seeds, and you could use unsalted roasted sunflower seeds as an option. And you want to make these pretty small in those mini muffin papers and get 30 out of them, and then they're bite-sized, so they're easier to eat. If you're making them ahead, you probably want to put a whole small berry like a raspberry on them, because a cut strawberry, if it's left on there for a long time, can make them soggy, but you could always add the fresh berry just before serving with a nice sprig of mint. And these come out for 3 of the little tartlets that's nice with a nice cup of decaf coffee for only 123 calories, compared to a lot of treats would be over 250 to 500 calories for a slice of pecan pie or a very rich cake. And then I have also an additional recipe that's more of a gift idea. Lately I've been trying to give people the gift of flavor. And one year I made them the taco lime spice mix. So I've included this, and it's a salt-free chili powder that you can get at Fred Meyer in the bulk section with cumin, garlic granules, and you can buy True Lime crystals. So they're in the spice section at the grocery store, and the brand is True Lime. They also have lemon, but they're dehydrated lime. And then we're adding with this some salt and shaking it in the bag, and then giving them in little spice jars with a label on the jar, so your friend or family can continue to make this seasoning mix that's great on popcorn or as a taco seasoning mix. So now we'll move on to some additional gift ideas.
And Jindy, before we do
Yes.
so, I'd like to catch up on a couple of questions.
Wonderful.
So at this extravagant holiday feast that you've set up for us all, how can you deal with close relatives who are food pushers? And what strategies might you have, Maggie asks.
So if you are at an event and you have people that are food pushers, you do want to just practice your thank you, but I'm following a healthy eating plan. This is delicious, but I'm just going to have a little bit. So you'll just have to practice a little bit your polite but assertive no thank yous, and decide how much you want. You can certainly ask for, if they want to serve you more, you can say you can put that in a to-go container for me. If that's an easier way for you to say no, a delayed version, and then you can take that home and either eat it or not eat it. But those are some ideas for learning to practice saying no. And you might want to practice with a friend or family member, and because you're going to have to figure out your wording that's comfortable for you.
Not always easy, particularly within my family, but that's great
right.
advice.
It's a challenge. Mm-hmm.
Victoria is asking, what is the best cooking oil, the least toxic plus GMOs? Or no GMOs, likely.
It depends on what you're using it for. If it's low temperature, you can get by with a light-colored or more yellow olive oil. But the extra virgin olive oil, which is probably among the healthier oils, is not a really good cooking oil because it smokes at a low temperature and it has a stronger flavor. So for cooking oil, you usually want a neutral oil. And so you can use something like an avocado oil. And that is now often available in bulk at Winco, and it comes in bottles at Costco as well. So I've been using avocado oil more often. You can also use a canola oil, but that is a little bit more processed. And there are peanut oils as well.
Excellent. Well, we'll move on with our healthy gift ideas, Jindy. Thank you.
You bet. So one of the options is to think about a healthy type of gift that gets people moving. Activity trackers have become popular the last several years, and you have an opportunity to have your name drawn for one of those today. But you might think about if you have one and you want a friend or family member to be more active with you, getting them that gift might be helpful. But there's some other ideas. There are adult hula hoops. There's a company out of Vancouver called Fat Hoops. It's spelled P-H-A-T hoops, and they are very sturdy hula hoops. They're a lot of fun. I couldn't actually hula hoop until I tried one of these because it's weighted much better. But it's a really fun thing to have around. and it gets used at our house fairly often as an activity item. Sometimes we're using it when we're watching TV. Another fun exercise tool is an item called a body blade, and it is about a 3-foot-long item that you can shake with 1 or 2 hands, and it works your upper body. And it's a fairly small item that's not hard to store, and it's also a fun activity item. So a gift certificate for an outing or a class could be a healthy gift idea. So whether it's a healthy cooking class or some type of activity class, like some cities have rock climbing gyms, or you could give someone a gift certificate for a personal trainer or yoga sessions or a dance class. So some type of outing, or maybe it's concert tickets to go to some event that would be fun. Another novel idea is to offer to refresh someone's herbs and spices. So it's really easy to kind of get sidetracked and find that you have spices that have been in your spice cupboard since you moved into that house. And those spices don't have as much flavor anymore. So it's recommended that if you don't use your herbs and spices very fast, that you refresh them about once a year. And it's cheapest to do that if you buy them in bulk. So you can save your jars, empty out and clean them if you need to, and refill them. And so that can be a nice gift to give for a cook that's been kind of busy. This year I'm recommending Mediterranean cookbooks because Mediterranean is a healthy eating style that's appropriate for people with diabetes, heart disease, wanting to lose weight, or in general just eat more of a whole foods diet. And on our next slide I'll have some recommendations for you. Another fun kitchen gadget is something like a spiralizer, where you can spiralize vegetables, make zucchini noodles, carrot noodles. So it gives you a fun way to play with your vegetables and make a lower calorie noodle. Another option for a spice or seasoning that I've been doing as gifts lately is making ground mushroom powders. You can buy dehydrated mushrooms, either the shiitake or the porcini mushrooms. I buy them at Fred Meyer's in the produce department. They're usually on one of the end caps, and they're small bags. And these particular mushrooms are about $5 for a small bag. And you can grind them in a clean coffee grinder. So if you don't have a clean coffee grinder, you need to clean yours out and then run some rice through it and get it cleaned out real good so it doesn't smell like coffee anymore. I actually have a separate one because I grind enough spices and whole grains freshly that it makes sense for me to have two, that saves some cleaning. But the reason for the mushroom powder is it's a great salt-free umami or a savory seasoning. They say umami is our 5th flavor or a savory flavor. The brand of mushrooms that I get at Fred Meyer's is the Fungus Among Us, and they are also available online. So if you're in other places where Fred Meyer's isn't convenient, you can order them online as well. So let's take a look at our resource list. So for some healthy recipes and menus, the Old Ways Nutrition Exchange has lots of great information on Mediterranean recipes as well as other cultural food traditions that have healthy foods. And so you can get lots of recipes and resources from the Old Ways Nutrition Exchange. Whole Foods Grocery Market, on their website, they have a 28-day Whole Foods Challenge that has wonderful recipes and pictures to motivate you to choose more of an unprocessed whole foods diet. So it can be a nice resource or something fun to do with family or coworkers. For some healthy as well as diabetic-friendly recipes, some sources that I like to go to are Diabetes Self-Management. It's the online version of the magazine, and they have great recipes, including seasonal items. There's also Diabetic Living is also a magazine, but they have their online version that also has great recipes and seasonal suggestions. I mentioned I'd have some recommendations for you for Mediterranean cookbooks. So the Old Ways web store has 2 different 4-week Mediterranean cookbooks. One is their standard Mediterranean, and one is their vegetarian or vegan one. And these are a great little, about $10 cookbook. You can actually get it from Amazon as well. and it's a very simple, easy to use cookbook. I've given it for wedding and college graduations because it's a very easy cookbook that even teenagers can use. A more comprehensive cookbook is the Good Food, Good Medicine. The link here doesn't show the whole title, but the handout on your links above the chat box gives you the full title of the cookbook. And this is a more comprehensive Mediterranean cookbook with a lot of research-based information for those who are wanting a more detailed resource. Some additional gift ideas, if you're familiar with America's Test Kitchen, either the television program or the radio program, they have their online information where they give you their reviews for different kitchen gadgets. So if you're trying to buy someone a fun kitchen item, it's a great place to go to look at the reviews because usually their selections are pretty tried and true. And earlier in the talk I mentioned the Backtrack personal breathalyzer for testing your blood alcohol level. And so those are available for $30 to $50. And you would, if you're going to have more than one person use it, you need to buy the extra little mouthpieces that you can wash and reuse. So there's some fun tips that I hope you get some ideas. I'm going to encourage you, since we talked about a lot of things today, to think about one positive action step you'd really like to put into place. And then share that with someone you know to encourage them or to have them encourage you to stick with your action plan. And I think we have time for some questions and answers.
We do. We'll wait for just a moment for folks to submit any questions that they might have. You've covered a lot of ground today, Jindy.
And I am happy if people have questions after the event. My email is here, and you can send me a message at jnewman, N-E-W-M-A-N, at peacehealth, all one word, .org.
So Sue leads us off with this question. Where can we find recipes for healthy vinegars?
So the healthy vinegars, the drinking vinegars, on the resource list, I've got the links for you it's actually on the recipes. So when I pull that up, let me scroll down to that. So there's imbibemagazine.com/homemade-drinking-vinegars is one resource, and another website is food52 is in the numbers, food52.com, and it's a blog, and it's how to make shrubs, aka drinking vinegars, without a recipe. And those links are listed in the recipes for you.
Excellent. And Mary's turning the tables on us, Jindy. She's
Wonderful.
asking, which of these strategies, Jindy, will you try this season? And I know for myself, I'm looking forward to making that halibut recipe over the forbidden rice. That just looks amazing.
So the one that I'm really working on is I'm working on the favorites mindfully and moderately. So being more selective, and I'm not, when I have an event, I'm not offering as many items as I used to. So I'm keeping it fairly simple. No two dessert choices and only one appetizer choice, so that we're making it just a small amount of items that are really good, so that we don't have so many choices that we feel like we have to try everything.
Well, there is beauty in simplicity, that's for sure.
And
Bob,
it also makes it easier.
Yes, absolutely. And Bob is asking, how does coconut oil compare to the other oil options?
So coconut oil has become pretty popular, but it is still solid at room temperature, and it has a fairly high saturated fat content. So even though it is a plant source, it is the tropical oils that are solid at room temperature do have a higher saturated fat content. So it's not the cure-all that some websites would have you believe. So in moderation, It can be used for some things, but I wouldn't have people using a lot of coconut oil because they're now saying for heart health that saturated fat content is the #1 thing that we need to take a look at. And coconut oil still is more highly saturated than the natural liquid oils.
Excellent. And we'll make this our final question so that we save time for our giveaway and closing remarks. But Julie is asking, does vinegar add to acid reflux issues?
Actually, it's interesting how the vinegars actually do not worsen for most people reflux. So, I mean, each individual has to see what works for them, but some people find, and in some cultures, they would have an after-dinner drink that is a drinking vinegar as a digestif, and it actually helps with some digestion. So, granted, you have to be careful if you have reflux and try small amounts of something first. And obviously, if you have acid reflux, eating large quantities or a lot of carbonated beverage could be more problematic.
Excellent. Well, I think we'll go ahead and move on. Really appreciate everyone's participation throughout this webinar. And we also would like, if you enjoyed today's presentation, Jindy will be speaking again next month in a webinar called Healthy Eating Food as Medicine. In this particular session, she'll share a healthy eating plan that is designed to combat some of the most common chronic health issues, such as diabetes and heart disease. So be sure to join us for a healthy start in January.
Wishing you all a safe and warm and happy holiday.
Thank you so much, Jindy. And this concludes today's presentation. But before we go, we want to be sure that we announce our lucky winner of our prize drawing. And Leanne, it is your lucky day. You will be receiving a Fitbit. Congratulations. We will reach out to you via email so that we can send your prize to you. And I, along with the rest of the team here, have really enjoyed spending this time with you today. A recording of today's presentation will be available soon on peacehealth.org/holiday-eating. So one more time, that's peacehealth.org/holiday-eating. And as you leave today's session, please take a moment to share your thoughts in our survey. So thanks again for your interest and engagement in today's presentation, and remember that healthy is up to you, and we here at Peace Health are here to help. So thank you so much. Stay warm and safe out there on the roads, and we'll look forward to seeing you again in January. Bye-bye.